Part 19. I felt empty in my heart. On this day, Xuan Huaifeng remembered his sister and asked for a day off to visit Nian's house, and ordered the driver to prepare the car. After changing into a dark black gown, he was about to leave when the servant named Zhang Rong rushed over to stop him and said, "Adjutant Xuan, the chief. Please come to the study." Xuan Huaifeng suddenly felt unhappy in his heart. "What? Are you in a hurry to talk now?" "I don't know. The chief is waiting. You can go." Xuan Huaifeng knew that Bai Xuelan wanted to make things difficult for him, but he tripped over him before going out. He was very unhappy and helpless. A few guards heard Zhang Rong's words clearly at the gate and strictly guarded him. He had to follow Rong Zhang to the study. Stepping through the door, seeing Bai Xuelan, he asked, "Are you looking for me?" Bai Xuelan turned his head and glanced at him. "Who offended you? You look unhappy." Xuan Huaifeng lowered his eyes coldly. "You're already let me on vacation today. If I have official business, I will do it for you as soon as I see my sister back." Sure enough, a man needs to be pretty. And he is all soapy. Bai Xuelan stared at the slender and handsome body in the new black satin gown, paced over, looked carefully, but couldn't take his eyes away for a while. "Last time I asked you to wear this dress to a banquet with me, but you refused, and now I finally have a good look. Well, your waist is also too thin." Putting his hand to his waist, Xuan Huaifeng took a step back and said in a deep voice, "You promised last night that you would never touch me again during the day." Bai Xuelan smiled. "You remember last night now?" Xuan Huaifeng suddenly became embarrassed, turned his face away fiercely and remained silent. His face flushed red. "What's the matter with you? It's late. I should go out. I have something to do. Come here." Bai Xuelan knew that he was in a hurry to leave, so he stopped messing with him, and called Xuan Huaifeng to the desk to meet him. Half kneeling, lifted a wooden board under the desk. A small safe built into it was revealed. Bai Xuelan asked, "Can you use this thing?" Xuan Huaifeng nodded. His family used to have this thing before. Generally, large families and those with a little bit of furniture will inevitably install one or two such safes at home. Although there are banks where you can save money these days, in fact, the world is really chaotic, so it is more convenient to have some cash on hand. Bai Xuelan said, "Watch me open." Turning the turntable on the safe, he slowly turned a few numbers, tossed for a while, and pulled the handle on the door to lift it. With a click, the door of the safe opened. Bai Xuelan turned his head and glanced at him, and asked, "Have you remembered the password?" Xuan Huaifeng could clearly see that the password was clearly his birthday. "Deliberately tell yourself the password." He vaguely felt that Bai Xuelan was a bit hateful, but he couldn't tell exactly where he was hateful. An indescribable feeling flashed in my heart. If you want to ask, I am afraid that Bai Xuelan will take the opportunity to ridicule and ridicule. He simply pretended not to care, nodded and said, "I remember." Bai Xuelan didn't seem to notice what he was thinking, so he reached in and took out a very trendy heart-shaped box covered with thin velvet, which looked gorgeous and cute. "Open the buckle and turn it out." It turned out to be a platinum chain with a pearl the size of a little finger hanging from it, gliding with a black oily silver light. There is also a set of earrings, also embedded with pearls of the same color, but smaller. Such a set is estimated to be expensive. "You've got an errand here, you can't always go home empty-handed like before. Even my face is not good. I brought this thing to your sister. I see her complexion is the same as yours, quite white and tender. Wearing this must look good. You go over there and please make her happy." Bai Xuelan handed the jewelry together with the box to Xuan Huaifeng. Xuan Huaifeng refused to take it. "This thing is too precious." He stuffed the box back into Bai Xuelan. Bai Xuelan held his wrist, squinted at him, his lips curled into a faint smile, and asked him, Are you trying to make a statement? Make a clear line with me? Or do you think my things are not good enough for the Lin family? Xuan Huaifeng froze secretly, knowing that he looks fine. He could turn his face at any time. This guy has a lot of power, and his mood is harder to guess than anyone else. Sometimes he is always angry with him, and he will follow you in a low-lying manner. But sometimes he just says one wrong word, and he explodes like a volcano without warning. It is necessary to use the surging lava to burn people who are not pleasing to the eye to death. Xuan Huaifeng had been tossed around every night by him for a while, and when he remembered his bullying methods, he really didn't have the guts to fight him. And stood stiffly for a long time before saying, I really want to give it away, why are you? Don't you send her in person? I'm happy to be a favor. Bai Xuelan's eyes slammed and disappeared again in a flash. Not feeling a little discouraged. After spending so much effort. Now Xuan Huaifeng doesn't fight him face to face, but is only afraid of him. It was like sending someone to prepare this set, originally to make Xuan Huaifeng happy. I didn't expect to be ingenious and stupid. I don't know why, but in front of this person, I just do something stupid. After thinking about it, he threw the velvet box on the desk and said coldly, I can't find someone to give it to me for more than 700 yuan. Do you like it or not? Xuan Huaifeng couldn't understand what he meant for a while, and stood for a long while. In the end, Bai Xuelan didn't speak anymore, so it was not a solution, so he had to speak. He opened his mouth and asked, Can I go? Bai Xuelan slammed, and a fire drilled from his forehead to the top of his head, burning his eyebrows, wishing to drag Xuan Huaifeng over and beat him. Or bully Emil fiercely. It was only last night that he promised not to touch him during the day, but he broke his promise in a blink of an eye, and cheating him in the future would not work. I could only endure it with gnashing of teeth in my heart. Thanks to his deep mind, his insides were like a knife twisting his intestines. His face only seemed to sink a little. And he said to Xuan Huaifeng, Nothing else, you can go. Xuan Huaifeng hurried out of the study. Bai Xuelan stayed alone, and after a while, a servant came in and said, Chief. Deputy Xuan sent a young man to ask you if he can spend the night at Nian's house tonight. Deputy Xuan said that tomorrow will be early morning. Just come back. He won't miss work. No, Bai Xuelan shouted, swept his palm to the table, and swept the phone and even the jewelry box to the ground. No. No, no. The servant was overwhelmed with fright. Repeatedly said, Yes, yes, and slipped out half short to tell Xuan Huaifeng. Walking outside the door, he was called back by Bai Xuelan again. Go, talk to Adjutant Xuan. Bai Xuelan gasped, and sighed as if he was tired after a long time. Forget it. Let him spend the night, tell him to come back early tomorrow, don't let this side urge him again and again. Please just leave. One hand pressed down on his heaving chest and took a deep breath. Yes. Don't miss a word of what I'm angry about. Yes. Chief. Xuan Huaifeng was surprised by Bai Xuelan's answer outside the mansion. I was secretly worried again, not knowing how to be blackmailed by Bai Xuelan after returning for this little favor. But it's not in the immediate future. I got into the car, and without any instructions, the driver drove straight in the direction of Nian's house. The sun is good today and the weather is pleasant. Passing Ping'an Avenue, the doors of the shops on both sides of the street are wide open. Looking at it all the way, there are horizontal and vertical signs hanging high on the wall. Otherwise there will be large advertisements for cigarette beauties. Small businesses have also come out one after another, occupying a place on the street. Placing 2 long wooden stools and a small square table, which is a tofu brain stall. The rest selling knife-cut noodles, wontons, meat buns, candied haws, and noodle people spread a little. occupying the roads on both sides. Just in time for work and class, many pedestrians were forced to take up the lane on the road and hurriedly walk. As soon as a few cars came, they were jammed on the road. The driver watched the rickshaw pass by, almost rubbing the car skin, honking his horn and cursing. The guards also jumped out of the car and shouted viciously to chase the people in front of them. However, Xuan Huaifeng felt very cordial, and called the guards, asking them not to scare others, and opened the door by himself. The guard quickly followed and asked, "Adjutant Xuan, where are you going?" Xuan Huaifeng pointed to a bakery not far away. Bai Xuelan's words are not completely unreasonable. He can't go to his sister with empty hands every time. His sister loves to eat red date mudcakes, so he buys 2 boxes for her to eat. And Zhang Ma, who gave her a box of lotus paste cakes, I don't know how long she will be happy. After taking 2 steps, Xuan Huaifeng turned his head. I'm not going anywhere else. You can see it from here, you don't need to follow. The guard's head was fierce towards ordinary people, but he just smiled at him. The chief told us that if you lost a single hair, we would also lose our lives. Adjutant Xuan, we are acting on orders, so don't take offense. Xuan Huaifeng knew that they had been told by Bai Xuelan that they would not run away even if they were scolded, and those who could not be beaten away if they were beaten, had to be left to them. It's just that he led a few tall and fierce guards to the pastry shop, not like shopping, but like smashing the shop. Before the group arrived, the pastry shop staff were already secretly vigilant. And when they saw that they were really coming, they were so frightened that they hurried in to find the shopkeeper. Xuan Huaifeng stood in front of the counter, and the shopkeeper immediately came out from behind, bowed and smiled. "Hello sir, what's your order?" "Buy some cakes." Oh. The shopkeeper heard that he was buying something. Half of the dangling heart was put down, and he hurriedly asked for the cake holder in person and opened the cabinet to get it. "Is it for the wife? What do you want? Is there any red date stuffing?" Red date pastry and candied red date are old signatures. 1 box of each. The shopkeeper hurriedly picked out 2 good boxes and sealed them aside. "Sir, do you want anything else?" "Lotus paste cake, I want a box too." "That's enough." "Okay. Lotus paste cake." The shopkeeper hurriedly picked out another box of lotus paste cake and handed it to the man beside him. 5 or 6 kinds of cakes, a total of 9 boxes. The cardboard box with the cake pattern, pulled a red silk rope and fastened it in all directions, and handed it to the guards. Xuan Huaifeng hurriedly said, "Don't be so much." The shopkeeper looked at the guards behind him. Everyone was wearing a gun case. The person in front of him didn't know where he came from. Snub. Those who do business are most afraid of encountering soldiers. These things don't cost him $50 or $60 every time they come to the door. If only a few boxes of dim sum were needed. Thank goodness. The shopkeeper smiled and said cautiously, "Sir, you have worked hard for the country and the people. It is a blessing for our small shops to honor a few boxes of gadgets. These are not respectful. If the wife and lady at home like it, you can call someone to pick it up at any time in the future. Just a few boxes. With extra diligence." He shoved a large stack of boxes into the hands of the guards beside Xuan Huaifeng. Xuan Huaifeng was still asking how much money, but the guys didn't dare to answer. The guard was used to fighting the autumn wind, so he accepted it honestly and rudely. Because there are several guards with guns, and a really handsome and elegant young officer. There is a circle of people unconsciously around. Some people watch this lively. Some people watch this beautiful person. The store becomes more and more crowded. The guards didn't allow anyone to get close. They stretched out their hands and pushed them, shouting, "Go away! Go away! What's so good about buying cakes, sir? Let's catch them back." Touch your head to avoid it. Xuan Huaifeng didn't want to cause trouble, so he frowned, and said to the shopkeeper, "This is outrageous, you're in business. And you give away small business like this for nothing?" Without fuss, he took two $10 from his pocket. It is estimated that it is enough to pay for these boxes of snacks. Put them on the counter, turn around and walk towards the car. The guards carried the pastry box and quickly followed from behind. As soon as he walked out of the store, he suddenly shouted from behind, "Adjutant Xuan." Xuan Huaifeng turned around and a woman in a light yellow dress squeezed out from the crowd. When she came to the front, she grinned without saying a word, and said happily, "What a coincidence, I actually met you on the street. It's been 2 months? Why didn't you come to sit with me?" It was actually Li Hua from Shuyan. When the guard saw Li Hua approaching without any hesitation, as usual, he did not ask the reason and reached out to push. Xuan Huaifeng had seen their rude looks just now, and he didn't want Li Hua to be pushed down, so he hurriedly stretched out his hand to stop him, shouting, "Stop." The guards stepped aside. Li Hua grabbed his hand and looked up at him with a bright smile, called, "Adjutant Xuan," and asked intimately, "Look at the new Western dress I'm wearing today. Does it look good?" Xuan Huaifeng came back from studying in the UK, and he really learned a little bit of British manners towards ladies. So being held hands by a big girl and rashly throwing her away hurt her face. I was embarrassed and could only say, "It's beautiful," thinking about how to let Li Hua let go. Li Hua giggled at the praise, and shook his arm coquettishly. "Is that your car? It's lavish. Can you borrow the car of the Chief of Customs?" "Yes." Although Li Hua is young, she has been in the business since she was a child, and she has never seen it before. As soon as she glanced at Xuan Huaifeng, she knew that he was the kind of good master who was rare in 1,000 years. He had a docile temper, was not involved in the world, and had a lot of money in his pocket. No matter what, it can't be easily let go. "Adjutant Xuan, let's walk on this Ping'an Avenue." "Okay, I still have something to do. I dealt with these girls very little, and when I saw their active charm for the first time, I was very surprised." Li Hua asked, "Can you please eat a bowl of tofu brain?" "This is nothing." Xuan Huaifeng spent a dime to invite her to eat a bowl of bean curd. After eating, she wiped her lips with a handkerchief. And she had other plans, she said with a sweet smile. "I was bound tightly by my mother on weekdays. I finally went out today and met you again. Isn't this fate? I heard that this Ping'an Avenue is the busiest and there are many beautiful things. Will you accompany me to have a look?" Xuan Huaifeng really didn't want to entangle with her, so he smiled bitterly. "Next time. I really have something to do today." Li Hua did with a pretty and lovely expression. She clasped his palms together and begged, "Just a little bit of work. Daxin Foreign Company, Limited is right in front, just a few steps away. Usually I go in alone, but the guys inside always look down on me, and they think I can't afford it. Yes. Adjutant Xuan is with me today, so I can be proud of myself." Adjutant Xuan. Okay. The words "Daxin Yangxing" penetrated into the eardrums, and Xuan Huaifeng trembled immediately. My heart seemed to be hooked by a fishhook, and it twitched slightly. He looked forward. Sure enough, in the hustle and bustle of people, the big signboard of Daxin Yangxing showed a corner with a black background and gold paint, and the rest was blocked by the hanging front eaves. Qijun. In these days, he has been thinking about suppressing, avoiding, expecting, and disappointed. I can't say whether I am disappointed with myself or with this dream about Qijun. Xuan Huaifeng knew that it was his own fault. Mixed with Bai Xuelan, it seemed that he had fallen into a swamp, and before he knew it, he would be doomed. Xuan Huaifeng used to worship concubine Yu and Wen Tian Shang. Wen Tianxiang said that since ancient times in life, no one died, and their hearts and minds will be reflected in history. Xuan Huaifeng believed this sentence very much. However, he now realizes that it is really difficult to be strong. Needle to the flesh, only know the pain. A lot of things are not dreamy. For example, with Bai Xuelan, every night he secretly vowed to fight to the end, but every night he surrendered helplessly. He was too weak. When Bai Xuelan hugged him, he seemed to be thrown into the erupting crater. How can a person who is thrown into the crater and immersed in lava have any sense? All that's left is instinct. However, the instinct was firmly controlled by Bai Xuelan. Bai Xuelan made him crazy. And he went crazy. Bai Xuelan made him satisfied, and he was satisfied. Every time I think about it, Xuan Huaifeng hates himself. He felt that if he mentioned Wen Tianxiang and concubine Yu again, it would be an insult to others. He just saw Qin Fu, who bowed his head to anyone who was strong, but only had a sanctimonious face, and surrendered to Hon Cheng Chou of the Qing dynasty in a blink of an eye. No, not as good as these two. How can I see Qijun like this? Qijun, I really want to see you. However, I dare not. Xuan Huaifeng gritted his teeth and shook off Li Hua's arm. Miss Li Hua, I really have something to do today. He stopped, reached into his pocket, took out all the money in it, and stuffed it into Li Hua. Go on your own, buy one for yourself if you fancy something. Li Hua suddenly got a stack of banknotes, and her eyes were round, holding the money. I couldn't believe it for a while and couldn't make a sound. Xuan Huaifeng pretended to be fascinated by the wind, rubbed his eyes, turned around and greeted the guards behind him. It's getting late, I want to stay at Nian's home. The guards quickly cleared the way for him. When I came back, there was already a man standing beside the car, wearing a very beautifully tailored light gray suit, showing a bitter smile to Xuan Huaifeng, and sighing. I thought it was the servant in the mansion. The second time I called, they said you didn't want to see me. Now, seeing that you're even walking around my foreign company, I understand it. You don't want to deal with me for the rest of your life, don't you? Xuan Huaifeng stared in front of him. The man stopped breathing. Qijun. For a moment, I didn't know where to put my hands, where to put my feet, or where to look with my eyes. Both surprised and terrified. My heart was aching hot, as if I had just been frostbitten, and suddenly it was roasted again. The heat rushed to the edge of the eye socket, and he was startled. Can't cry. In broad daylight, in full view, when I saw Qijun, I shed tears. So pretentious, even an actor is inferior. Xuan Huaifeng was a little stunned. Why do I think of the actor Pai Yunfei at this moment? It's really useless. I was absent for a long time, so long that I was worried that I would wake up. And Qijun had already left. Xuan Huaifeng quickly settled down and took a serious look. Qijun was still standing quietly in front of him, waiting for him to speak. However, he was unpromising, and he didn't know what to say. After a long time, Xuan Huaifeng spit out a few words from his blood-fading lips. Qijun, is that you? Lin Qijun has always had no temper with him, and waited patiently for a long time before he said such a sentence. He asked with a gentle smile, It's not me, who should it be? He has been in and out of the White Mansion many times, and the guards all know that he is the young master of Daxin Yangxing, and that he is a friend of the chief executive, so they didn't stop him. Let him walk to Xuan Huaifeng's side. Lin Qijun stood close to him, and then asked, You don't answer the phone, and you refuse to meet. Do you want to break up with me? Xuan Huaifeng shook his head and said nothing. It's not that he doesn't want to explain, it's that he can't explain it. He certainly believed that Qijun had his heart, but he was also very worried. Qijun is too clean. He had already taken the rumors of studying abroad so seriously. If he knew about Bai Xuelan, would he still have it? But hiding from him, pretending to have nothing to do and still talking to him. Looking at each other, Xuan Huaifeng felt that in front of Qijun, he was obviously shorter than before. It's all good work done by Bai Xuelan. Lin Qijun waited for a while. Seeing that Xuan Huaifeng refused to explain, he just let it go, and said softly, "If you don't break up with me, it would be better. Please have a meal." Okay? Xuan Huaifeng could not refuse this request no matter what. Even if I know that I don't deserve to be entangled with Qijun again, even if I know I have eaten this meal, I don't know how to be embarrassed by Bai Xuelan when I go back. He couldn't help but nodded. There was no hesitation to even think about it. The two got into the car together, went to the very high-end Huasha hotel, and asked for an elegant small private room. The guards still had to follow the room. Xuan Huaifeng stopped them, and said with a straight face, "I'm in the Huasha hotel, do you have to follow so closely? With you standing at the door, who can break in?" Seeing him raise his face for the first time, they were both surprised. But they didn't dare to offend him too much. Bai Xuelan told him that the first thing is to ensure the safety of Xuan Huaifeng, and the second thing is to protect Xuan Huaifeng's face. Now people are in the room of the Huasha Hotel, on the 3rd floor. If you want to say safety, guarding the door is enough. The guards looked left and right, and could only retreat. 2 people were arranged to guard the stairs, and the others were guarding the door. If someone entered, they would always find someone to follow them all the way. Xuan Huaifeng repelled the guards. Turned his head, just saw Lin Qijun sitting there secretly laughing, and asked with a shy face, "What are you laughing at?" Lin Qijun said, "You are now an adjutant, so majestic. Look at this momentum, I kind of think of Uncle Xuan." Xuan Huaifeng didn't want to talk about this topic and sat silently. Lin Qijun asked, "Why don't you speak?" Xuan Huaifeng raised his head. His black and white eyes only looked at him quietly. "Mixed tastes in my heart. A moment ago, I wished I could be alone with Qijun and vomited all my grievances. But at this moment I knew that I was wrong. It's worse to be alone when you can't say anything." Lin Qijun didn't know if he noticed something. He sighed and whispered, "Huaifeng, you've changed a lot." "How has it changed?" "It has become more elegant and stylish, and, sometimes, I'm afraid I won't recognize you, and I don't know what you're thinking." Lin Qijun looked at him. "You never did this before. Be silent, always have something to say when you see me, and be happy. Don't you like to see me now?" "No, I don't talk much. I always feel." Lin Qijun swallowed the words halfway through. For no reason, Xuan Huaifeng suddenly felt guilty. He glanced at Lin Qijun and asked in a low voice, "What do you think?" Lin Qijun hesitated for a moment before saying, "I think you are treating me now, just as you were treating Xuelan in the past. As soon as you saw him. Face down." "No." Xuan Huaifeng raised his voice abruptly, frightening even himself. Seeing Lin Qijun looking at him in surprise, he was digging and scratching desperately like a mouse with 10 sharp claws stuffed in his heart. He didn't know what to say to remedy it, so he sat in the chair dazedly, letting the pain torment him. The two faced each other silently, just as they didn't know how to get down. The restaurant staff came in to relieve them and asked, "What would you like to eat for the 2 guests?" Lin Qijun squinted at Xuan Huaifeng and sighed when he saw that he didn't move. He took over the recipe and flipped through it and ordered 3 Western dishes at random. The guy wrote it down with a small note and left. Lin Qijun waited for him to leave, stood up, changed to the position closest to Xuan Huaifeng, and called softly, "Huaifeng." He stretched out his palms and grasped Huaifeng's hand. Xuan Huaifeng's body shuddered, subconsciously wanting to break away, When he raised his head and met his gaze, he suddenly realized that this was Qizhen's hand. Just thinking about it like that, I can feel it in my mind. As if only the hands that were held are left. Xuan Huaifeng imagined that it should be warm and kind. The reality is not so. That is, very hot. It was as if he was caught by a soldering iron. Which made him panic, and all the mess in his mind poured out like crazy. Did Qizhen know? Will Qizhen smell Bai Xuelan on himself? I wonder if Bai Xuelan left any bad marks on his neck last night? Is it true that all the thieves who have cheated on their hearts throughout the ages have such a guilty conscience when facing the original owner? What if I confessed to Qizhen at this time? Paper can't contain fire. Qizhen will know one day. It's better to die early, and it's better to confess now. If Qizhen wants to make a clean break, it will be his own fault and cannot live. However, if Qizhen is willing to be with him, regardless of his past suspicions, then it is really God's mercy. Right, that's how it should be. Xuan Huaifeng roared in his heart, feeling a little more strength in his heart. He hated the feeling of worrying about gain and loss. I hate being constantly coerced by Bai Xuelan. His relationship with Qizhen is real. What if Qizhen knew about those things? Extending the head is a knife, and retracting the head is also a knife. The big deal is death. Thinking of this, Xuan Huaifeng felt that most of the suffocation in his heart had disappeared, and his strength seemed to pour out. He let Qizhen hold his hand firmly, took a deep breath, and asked in a deep voice, "Qizhen, I'm sorry if I did it. Will you forgive me?" Lin Qizhen still looked at him very tenderly. "Huaifeng, when did I not forgive you? No matter what you do, my heart is still the same as before." Xuan Huaifeng twitched as if frightened. Taking a breath, he looked at him suspiciously. After a long while, the body slowly relaxed. He didn't see the wrong person. He was happy and sad, and wanted to cry. Lin Qizhen had already stretched his arms behind his waist and put his arms around him gently. Seeing that he was relaxed and a little bolder, he slowly put him into his arms, stroked his handsome face, and said slowly, "Don't worry, I know everything." Xuan Huaifeng's eyes widened suddenly. "You know everything? Well," Lin Qizhen said lightly, "I know that many of the new systems of the General Administration of Customs are from you. Although it is to be loyal to the country. But those of us who do business with imported goods are getting worse every day." Xuan Huaifeng was startled, and his heart was a little cold, so he closed his eyes halfway. Lying in Qizhen on his chest, "Those new systems are not all my ideas. Besides, isn't Chief Pai yet officially announced? He has to think about it." Lin Qizhen paused and said, "Chief Pai? I remember you from the past. Every time you mention him, you call him Bai Xuelan angrily. I call him Xuelan, and you think I'm too close to him. I didn't want to talk to you about this. Relationships and business matters are too vulgar and boring. However, since you said it just now, you feel sorry for me, which shows that you regret these proposals in your heart. Yes, good rules. What to do with them? I also think for you, working in the General Administration of Customs, one more thing is better than one less thing. The bell must be tied to the bell, I'm thinking. You are now a celebrity beside Xuelan, if you tell him." Just a moment. Lin Qizhen hadn't been intimating with him for many days, and he was really worried about it. Seeing Xuan Huaifeng's slender and flexible body leaning against his arms, his cheeks even more white and handsome with the black satin collar of his long gown, he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. As he spoke, he started to slide down. Xuan Huaifeng was feeling cold and angry when he heard it, and when he touched it, he sat up straight as if he had been bitten by someone below. Lin Qizhen was also taken aback by his reaction, and quickly asked, "What's wrong?" Xuan Huaifeng stood up, glared at him and asked, "This is why you invited me to dinner today?" Lin Qijun seemed to understand, and immediately said, "I was wrong. I deliberately invited you to dinner and reminisce. If you don't like to talk about these things, I will never tell you these things again in the future." Then he said, "If I treat you as an official, I'm not human anymore. I really have such thoughts, I'll be struck by lightning." Immediately, he made a fierce oath and asked Xuan Huaifeng, "Don't you believe me?" Xuan Huaifeng, seeing him like that, couldn't blame him anymore. "I thought to myself, I felt empty in my heart. All the things I was thinking of inevitably fell into the devil's way. I haven't confessed. But I am suspicious of Qijun. Is this a typical thief shouting to catch a thief?" Thinking of this, his expression softened, and he said, "It's not a big deal. I'm just asking you for nothing." "Why did you make such a bad oath?" Just as there was a knock on the door, the guy came up with the prepared Western dishes. The aroma of veal steak fills the box. With outsiders around, the two of them couldn't say anything, so they sat down and started eating. The same goes for when the guy puts out the dishes and goes out. No longer in the mood to do anything else. After eating in a hurry, Xuan Huaifeng said that he wanted to stay with his sister at Nian's house. Qijun couldn't help but stop his wrist, gave him a deep look, and gritted his teeth. "It's rare to see you, and I made you unhappy. I really hate myself." Seeing him like this, Xuan Huaifeng couldn't bear the pain again. The guard outside waited impatiently. Seeing that the hotel staff said that the bill had been settled, he knocked on the door and came in and urged, "Adjutant Xuan, the meal is over. Mrs. Nian should be in a hurry. Shouldn't it be time to leave? The car has been waiting there. It's at the entrance of the hotel." With no choice but to say goodbye to Qijun, he got into the car and came to Nian's house.